Cool. So I will mute us and start the music and then we'll keep going. Cool.
Okay, perfect. Yep.
Let's do it. Welcome to Run with Purpose. This is episode number 84. And for those of you that are new to the show, my name is Flores, and I'm so very glad that you found this podcast. Would love if you would subscribe. And as always, you can reach out to me on all of the socials at flores.run. Today, we have an amazing guest on the show. She's been on the show before. You know her. She is the host of I Fucking Knew. Her podcast is just so great. I also love the name, and we might have to talk a little bit about that as well. But she's an overall cool and awesome person. Chris, thanks for being on the show today.
Yeah, man, I'm stoked. Number 84, by the way, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's crazy when you just keep doing it. It's like, I think one person listens every week, but that's okay. I have 84 listens then, right?
That's exactly. I love it.
How you been? How you been?
Good. Really great. Got the coffee. It's like chilly out. It's perfect fall morning. I have like a Goodwill thrifted dress that my husband told me I looked like a grandmother in. Like, it's a great day.
Love it. Love all of it. Yeah. It's like the weather's just getting to that spot where it's like legit fall. And now that we've moved to Minnesota, I'm like actually feeling that. Like, I'm looking back and like everyone in Columbus are like, yeah, it's like 70 degrees. I'm like, it's 45, but that's okay. Like, we'll figure it out.
Oh my gosh. I know. Fall, cold. It's whatever at this point, it's whatever.
Just got to embrace it. Keep moving on.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to hear a little bit. I know we've kind of talked about it, but like the change of your podcast before we get into what we're talking about today, let's actually rewind a second. What I'm trying to do with the guests now is plug all your things now so we don't feel rushed at the end. So people are like, oh, I know who I'm talking to. So plug your socials, plug everything you need to do, and then we'll get into it.
Cool. Yeah. So I've been podcasting for 3 years, and I previously, my podcast name was The Red Door, which was extremely vague. No one had a fucking clue what it was. When I even like searched it, this other like religious podcast came up, and I was like, this is definitely not mine. And so, yeah, it was time for a rebrand, and I was with a girlfriend and we could not think of a name. We were literally it took hours to come up with this. And finally she asked a question. Okay, because the whole premise, maybe I should have started there. The whole premise of the show is to tell a story that when you just fucking knew, right? When you just had a gut feeling, and that could literally be at any point. It doesn't have to be like a specific time or specific topic.
Right.
And so she said, well, what do you say when you get that gut feeling? Like, what do you say? And I'm like, I fucking knew. And so we're like, yeah, that's it. Yay. After like 3 glasses of wine. So maybe it's not the best name, but for now, it totally resonates. And what I think the best feedback that I've gotten from people is like, oh my gosh, Chris, as soon as I read that name, like I can hear you, I can hear your voice saying that, which to me, I'm just like, yes. But I also want people to like resonate with that, to where they hear a story and they are like, oh yeah, like I've had a time like that where I just knew that something was off, whether that was like, it could literally be anything. I've had so many different types of people. I mean, people that want to talk about like more business stuff, like when they just knew they wanted to pivot. I have someone who wants to talk about when they knew, that their spouse was cheating. Like, there's so many different things. And that's what's so cool, is that no matter what the story is, people can still relate to that feeling of just knowing. So if you're interested in stories like that all over the board, the podcast is I Fucking Knew. And I'm only on Instagram. Like, I don't do anything else. I do it very rarely and randomly whenever I feel like it. And it's just my name, Kristjana Hilberg. So it's super easy, you guys, just simple.
Yeah, real simple. And obviously it'll be tagged and linked and everything here. But yeah, I had the pleasure of being on our show, and just like the way you help kind of develop stories and how people almost like, you're almost having like a realization, like while you're talking it out, like, the story because it's your story. But then as you talk about it, you think of other aspects that you may not have thought about before. So yeah, if you guys, I'm just telling you right now, just go listen to it. Whether you think you're into it or not, I think you're going to be into it. So just go over and check it out. You're going to love it. It's funny you brought up Instagram though, because that's kind of along the topic we're going to talk about today, at least more probably on Instagram than anything, just because of the kind of nature it is. And this idea of what I'm just calling double click culture. I don't know if that's been used by somebody else and I just stole it and didn't realize it, but I'm going to say it's mine. I'm calling it double click culture. And it's this idea of how many times we are either like posting things for the gram, we're doing it for the gram, or on the other side of it is when we see other people's things, all we're doing is double tapping on a photo to like it and keep scrolling, and kind of how that can mess with our heads. And Chris, knowing like your background and like PR and all of that kind of thing, how does that like play in? Because I'm sure you have, personal, I don't want to say issues with it, but understanding of seeing both sides of that spectrum.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. This is such a great topic because I think there's so much to it. So we'll just start where you kind of let in, is with PR background. And I also help with like brand partnerships, right? So some people, like influencers especially, they like count on those, right? Like in order to get their page views up, they count on those likes. In order to like get brand partnerships, engagement is like massive for them. So I've seen both ways where it's like, I truly see people run it as a business and like they are allowed to make passive income because they have such an engaged page. And then I've also seen it on the other side where businesses are truly like over here behind the scenes being like, what the fuck am I doing? I'm spending so much time and energy posting stuff, liking stuff, and nothing is happening. Like, what is going on? And so my answer behind all of it is intention. And I think that as a business or as a personal thing, whether you're just like on your couch scrolling or whether you are a business trying to create some sort of engagement and maybe attract clients to your business, it's all about intention, right? Like I have totally been scrolling unintentionally. And I do that exactly what you were talking about, the double like, where I just like a quote, you know what I mean? And I'm like, yep. But I'm really not giving any like deep thought to it. I'm not actually responding to the person who probably behind the scenes like took the time and energy to write a caption or create that graphic, whatever. And then it almost just seems like meaningless and I'm wasting time. I'm not truly connecting with someone.
Right.
And so then that time is just gone at the end of the day. Whereas if I intentionally say, okay, I'm going onto Instagram, I'm going to watch stories and I'm going to like it. And instead of just like, I'm actually going to comment on what I liked about it. So whether it was like, oh my gosh, this is so relatable, or I totally love like the colors in this graphic, it makes me so happy. Anything, it just feels way more meaningful and like I'm actually building relationships instead of just, I don't even know how to describe it. What's your feeling and word behind that?
Yeah, I think that connection and intention is really like hits it right home for me. Because I think that's the thing, is we do a lot of things as a creative, as a creator, like that's my thing. I'm like, hey, I need to put something out. I spend so much time and energy coming up with the right color scheme. You bring up colors, like a lot of people don't think of those things, the right colors, the right caption. Am I wearing the right clothes? Is the light in the background right now the right color for the mood kind of thing? All of these things are in my head, and so we put all this energy into it as a creator. So then when you get the scroll by where it's like, hey, here's likes. Like, okay, I got 60 likes on this, but no one's reached out to me. No one said that this podcast helped them in some sort of way. We have, call to actions are on everybody's post if you're doing something business wise. Right. When people don't respond and they just like, it's like, yeah, that's great, but where is that kind of connection? And I think that's the piece that I think is missing so often. not even from like a business side of things, but a lot of times people have personal accounts and business accounts. I know you used to, and you've kind of switched to the one account, and I think that kind of way helps. But you see on like personal accounts where it's people will, family members or whatever, they'll just like every photo you post, or they won't do anything, and it's like, well, again, what do you like about it? Hey, leave me a comment. I haven't talked to you in 3 years. Why are you trying to add me as a friend now? The whole purpose around social media, at least the original construct before it became what it is, was this really understanding of building community with people, but not having to be right there with them. So being able to cross physical barriers to actually relate with people that are like-minded or even not like-minded for you to learn more, to reach across, to have those conversations but if we've turned into this, I'm just scrolling and liking and stuff like that. And again, I do the same thing. I'm bad on TikTok with it now, which is a problem. Like every once in a while I have to delete TikTok off my phone because it's a real problem. But it's like just scroll. And it's like 45 minutes has gone by. And especially on TikTok, the comments aren't as visible as they are on other platforms. So you don't even think about that. You're either scrolling, you're double tapping to liking, and you keep moving on. And I think we come into this thing, but I wonder if it's also part of the problem is the way those social media platforms are designed. The fact that in order to get views, in order to get out there, you need to have more likes for the algorithm to say, oh, this is popular, let's start showing people things. That could be a bigger part of the problem.
Have you ever seen Social Dilemma?
Did you watch it? So good. So creepy, but so good.
What? Just shocked, but also like I knew, I knew, but also I was in shock. But yes, 100%. I think though, as a business owner, and like, it's so funny because I co-host a podcast with one of my clients that is strictly business, and she is a simplicity coach. So when it comes to running a business and like setting up everything, she's all about simplicity, which I love it. She's taught me a lot. But it's so funny because she'll be like, and what about you, Chris? And I'm like, oh, I don't ever check like my analytics or my insights. Like what's market research? Like I haven't actually done it. And so it's just so funny because I run my business so differently than other business owners. Like I show up on social media when I want to and when I have the energy for it, because I know that if I sit and make like beautiful graphics, that like exactly kind of like what you said earlier, like they might get 100 likes, but that does nothing for me. You know what does do something for me is engagement in my stories. And so I've been like just asking more questions or telling really quick stories. And I feel like those are the times that I get the most engagement. Even if someone just replies back like, oh my gosh, this made me, cry laughing. It was so funny. Great. Then at least I can have some sort of connection in the DMs. Because if someone is just liking my photo, I'm just like, it doesn't do anything for me. So I would rather engage in my stories than create a beautiful feed. Like to me, that's just not important. But everyone's different. Like everyone has different reasons. And I'm sure that like logically, I mean, we all know that someone has to see your message, like 19 times before they actually like convert or whatever, want to buy from you. But I'm just like, I don't even say the exact same thing over and over. I'm sure sometimes people come to my page and they're like, cool, there's Chris. She's doing like 28 things. What does she actually do? Like, what does she actually help people with? And so if I cared that much, I would probably change it, but I just don't, because people are going to ask you anyway, right? People are going to reach out and ask you at some point anyway. And so to me, I'm just like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what's important and what's not.
Right. And I think we're on the same page. And I think that's why we get along so well. We can have these conversations, is because we have that same mindset of we use it as a tool for our business because we need to do so in order to keep moving forward with our business. But we do so many different things, and we're not letting kind of the social media gear, if you will, kind of control the way we do things. Again, certain industries, you might have to do that, because if every player in your industry is on social media and that's how they're driving traffic, then you know what, you might have to do it. But can we be a little more strategic in that engagement of, let's have a conversation? That's kind of, I think, obviously your podcast is all about that, telling stories and really building that connection with people, because when we can form those relationships, you can find out more about people. I do it with my photography when I don't have any prices listed on my website. And I do that on purpose because I don't want it to be a shopping, like family portraits, $250. Okay, I'm going to do his family portrait package. It's like, no, what do you need? I want to learn more about you. What kind of things do you like? It's like, that may not be for you. And I'm okay with taking the time to build that relationship and build that connection, because that's what's important to me. Just, my photography is obviously a side thing. So for me, I want to do projects that I'm excited about. And I do that with anything else. My old podcast, it was every single week we were releasing an episode. Even if we don't have anything cool to talk about, we would just fake it for an hour and get an episode out. But now it's like, wait a second, like, this is my creative outlet. I should talk to the people I want to talk to. I should do the things I want to talk to, and I know you get this as well. You get these emails from people like, hey, so-and-so is releasing a new book and we think they'd be a great guest on your podcast. And I'm like, no, I don't think they would. I don't think you've listened to my podcast if you think they're going to be a great guest on my podcast, because it's like, that's not what I'm about. I'm not trying to obviously promote things, people that I like. I want to promote the things they're doing, because obviously I like them and I like the things they're doing. But I'm not just going to be like, hey, you've got a book? Well, yeah, come on the show and then, maybe give me a free copy of the book or something. Like, no, that's just not me, because it's a fake conversation. And I think we run into that with the social media thing as well. One person that I think does the opposite of this, so the consistent posting and working with the engagement, is our friend Demetria. Like, she nails all of that stuff. And she just released a book, which I completely forgot the name of. Do you know off the top of your head?
No, I'm forgetting it too. But the cover is gorgeous. I can absolutely see it in my brain. Yeah.
It's absolutely gorgeous. I'll tag it in the show notes. But like, she does it. She obviously has that, but she also is very personal. We're very relatable, and is like showing it through that lens of kind of opening herself up and her story. And I think that's like the exact way that we need to be doing that.
As you were talking, I had several thoughts, but the most important thing is, and this is obviously is just what I think, but people get lost in, and this kind of goes back to like the double click and the like, and feeling like you're just doing it for Instagram, right? Is people get lost in the numbers and the likes. And there's two sides to that, right? Like I just brought up, I work with people who that is a part of like their entire marketing plan, is to get all of that engagement and likes and bump up the numbers so that they can make that passive income through brand partnerships. But they do it very intentionally. Of course, I attract other people who want to do intentional work. So these women are truly like, they only work with brands who they're like, this is a total fit for my audience. They're not just like, I'll work with anybody. Right. But I have seen it consume people to where it's like, how many likes have I gotten? How many people have engaged with this? And then it just becomes like this all consuming thought and idea. And then it's like, okay, well, I need to create now. I need to create more. And I asked someone that I worked with last week, I said, how much time did you spend originally on creating? Because she was doing all the creating by herself. And she's like, I don't know, like 10 hours a week. And that's a shitload of time.
Yeah, it is.
So much time to be spending on creating graphics, writing captions, scheduling it out, making sure that it's like at the right times that your audience is going to engage with you. It's very like tedious, and it can work. Like, absolutely. I've seen these pages grow by hundreds and hundreds and thousands. Like it works. And then on the other hand, I have another friend who is trying to be more active on social. And so she was like, it's almost like a competition to me. Like, I want followers. And I was like, for what though? Like what, why, And she's like, I don't know, more to just like compete. Like it feels competitive. Like if this person over here can get to 1 million people, like why can't I? And I'm like, yeah, I get that. But also I don't, because I'm I really don't care about the followers. Like what I care about is, where am I putting my time? Is it actually converting people like to want to work with me, and work with me in the sense of maybe not pay me for my services, but be on a podcast, be like in my network of people I can refer to them, like people who just want to be in a, actually have relationships rather than just following me. I'm like, that doesn't do anything for me. And ultimately, that says nothing about you. Your followers say nothing about you. Like it doesn't equate to your worth. It doesn't equate to how much money you make in your business. It doesn't equate to any of that. And I think that in this society, it has become like that. I've even succumbed at some points, or I'll even like slowly get there where I'm like, oh my God, like I made a reel, nobody fucking liked it. What did I say? What did I do? Could have I done something different? And then I'm like, nope, out of it. Like none of this. So it's just like being super intentional and being aware of like, how am I spending my time on here? Who are the types of people I'm engaging with? Who am I following? Like, is it filling my feed and my stories with like happiness and, I don't know, empowerment? Or is it making me feel like competitive? Like, what the fuck? Why is this person over here getting 1,000 likes and they're posting the same thing as me? It's just, it's all, I don't even know. Maybe you have the word for it. Seems exhausting to me if you put a lot of thought and energy into it.
There's a lot of it, because you brought up the reels, and that's a really good point, because I had that where I was making the reels basically like mini podcast reels, basically like 45 seconds.
I loved your reels.
Thanks.
They were so good.
I have a bunch of scripts written out. I just haven't recorded them yet, obviously with the move and stuff. But I got like a semi-deflated. The first one I put had like 3,000 views like very quickly. And I was just like, okay, like this is awesome. Got like 50, 60 likes. I'm like, okay. And then tapered off a little bit. And then all of a sudden, one of my friends said I made a thirst trap video. I did some sort of video with my hair or something like that. Yeah. And it got like 11,000 views. And I was like, okay, like I'm like, that's not the avenue I want to go, but hey, if it gets views and gets people on the page, maybe. And then the next two reels that I made, like same kind of thing, the mini podcast ones, had like 10,000 views each. And I was like, this is awesome. The very next one, 200 views. And I'm like, okay, like, was I riding an algorithm way? But then I start thinking this. I'm like, did I do something? Was it the thing I was wearing? Was it not? Did I say the wrong thing? Did I not hit the right way? And it's like, wait a second. No, like you had no reason you hit 10,000 views. Just like you have no reason you hit 200 views. It's however their back end algorithm and all that stuff works. The meaningful part is, are people commenting on it? Are people saying, hey, I got something from that? This is exactly what I need. The other day, my dad actually reached out to me for a podcast episode, and I didn't even know he listened to my podcast, which could be good or bad. So I was just like, hey, this is really, he was like, hey, that helped a lot. I never thought about things, something like that. This is helping a lot with what's going on in my life. And I'm like, that's super cool. And those are the kinds of, those are the reasons I do the show and do most of my creative thing, is for that engagement. But another point you made, and it circles back to literally probably the same thing I say every single week on this podcast, is finding the why. Why are you doing it? Why does it matter? Why do you need to have 1 million followers? Why do you need to have all of these likes? Now, there may be a legitimate reason, like we said, from a business side, like you need that to stand out against competition or whatever. But if we take it on a personal level, what do you think that's going to get you? What feeling are you going to get? What's going to come of that? And is that, not to say it's not legitimate or not, but you really need to ask yourself, why is that important to me? Whatever that metric is, whatever you're trying to achieve. Because if you can't define why it is, it doesn't make any, you're going to spin your wheels because you're never going to get there. You can't get the how without the why, because you're just going to be picking from every area.
Yeah, exactly. I may have already shared this quote with you, but I subscribe to Abraham Hicks quotes, and they like come in my inbox every morning. And one of the quotes was that humans are always striving to like certain things, right? Like I always want to get here. And once I'm here, then I'll be happy. Like we're super familiar with that feeling. We've all done it. We totally get it. And so they were saying that there's never a here, ever. Like it's something we've completely made up. And so say that you were like, okay, once I get that job, you get that job. Okay. You're still not happy. Surprise. Right. It's like you have to, and not, I'm like, I don't want to say that same thing, like enjoy the journey. I'm like, that just sounds cheesy, but it's like getting to that point in life to where you are just like, what am I doing on a consistent basis that's going to get me that feeling? So not the event or not like the thing that happens, but the actual feeling of that. How do I get that? And over and over and over. I may have already told you this too. When I was getting my tattoo, the tattoo artist was so deep. She was asking the craziest questions. I was like, girl, this is like making me teary. Stop. And she was like, when was the last time that you just like were in a moment that you were like, I am so blessed. Like this is heaven right now. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm like trying to think, and it just so happened that I did have a moment, but I'm like, wow, she totally brought me back to the now and to like why I even do the things that I do. And so it's so important, I think, for all of us humans to realize and to just chill the fuck out, that instead of expecting like this great happiness eventually, that like it's totally available to us now. And it's kind of funny to think that like, 15 plus years ago, there was like no social media or anything. And we were still probably having these same thoughts, but maybe it's like worse now, because we actually are at our fingertips in front of millions of other people scrolling, looking at their stuff and then judging ourselves. And so it's just like, instead of trying to connect on social, which is super great, and I've made some really great connections on social media, but anymore, I'm like, how can I connect to like myself first and then intentionally connect to others? And whether that's through the podcast or through PR or helping somebody else do that, even just connect with your story, whatever it is, that's way more important to me now than like maybe in 2008 when I was just like trying to like message a cute boy from high school, So I'm just like, it's like a different level. And I think that no matter what, you have to approach things intentionally and exactly like what you said. How can I create that feeling of like why I'm doing this and do it every day and not like, well, once I hit 10,000 followers, then I'll be like fine. Then you're going to hit 10,000 followers and you're going to want 20 and 30. And then it's just like a tailspin every time. Like it's never ending.
Yeah. I like that idea of you never actually reach like there. You never get to that point. If I get to this point, we never get there because there's always, as you get there, then you want more. There's more there. More becomes available to you. And I think that's kind of where that mindset is you have what you have now because you see that as maybe not unreachable, but just out of reach. So you strive for that. But once you get there, then there's something else that's just out of reach that you're striving for. And I think when we talk about this social media and the double click culture idea, it's social media is a tool, just like every other tool that we had. Like you said, 15 years ago, we wouldn't have been having these conversations about social media, but we would have been having the same kind of relationship conversations of how do you build relationships. Businesses grew before social media. People blew up before social media. There is a way to do it. So building those relationships, building those connections, I agree. I think, there's been positives that have come through this pandemic season, if you will, as far as being able to almost being forced to have to make these relationships. I mean, I met you during this time. I've met a ton of other podcast guests during this time that maybe I wouldn't have if I only stayed in my local community, stayed with the people I knew. And it helps me kind of push myself out there. And social media has been a tool to kind of help me do that. But to the same point is I'm trying to be more intentional now with other people, with other creatives, or even just like friends and family, like just reaching out, saying like, how are you doing? Like, yeah, I saw you posted this thing, just checking in, make sure everything's okay. Because people that you can kind of read through the bullshit. You know what I mean? Like you see a post and you're just like, that's weird. Like, why'd you post this cloudy, dreary day with some like very like haunted type of quote or something like that. Like, everything cool? Like, do we need to have a chat? And it's like being more authentic in your approach to it. Again, it's a tool. We should use it in the way that we need to for the purposes, but finding the why in that and being intentional about how you're directing your message. I think it's a good business thing, but it's also a good personal thing. It's, it's very apparent when you scroll. You see it more on Facebook now, just because that's kind of what Facebook has become. But, this agenda of everyone's pushing, sharing news stories, sharing all of these things, where it's just like, hey, like, let's take a step back. Like, you're adding to the problem. We're saying social media is a problem. You're also saying it's a problem, but when you share that, you're also the problem. Like, do we not see this? Do we not see this cycle?
That's funny. I took a PR course several months ago, and the guest speaker was Jason Pfeiffer from Entrepreneur Magazine. He's the editor-in-chief, and he is fucking hilarious. And he was saying in there, like, listen, I am a human being. So, like, just as a reminder to all of you, when you pitch me, like, just remember that I'm also a human. So I don't want to get pitches like, hey, I'm writing a book and I know that Entrepreneur Magazine like needs to cover this. Like, he's like, okay. And so I think that was also like a reminder to me that in PR, I might have really phenomenal clients, but like we all have such unique like things about us that make us pretty cool, right? That we should be featured or can be featured, whatever. And my PR strategy has turned way more into like extremely aligned and intentional pitching, because if I'm going to be pitching a writer, I want to know that I like them and that maybe they'll even like me because like we have similar interests. So if I pitch to 50 people a day from a random list, it feels so inauthentic to me. Like, I almost think like, oh my God, they're going to feel that this is totally fake. Like, when they get this, they're going to be like, oh God, like another pitch. Right. But for me, if I actually look into the writer and I don't have very much in common with them, I'm like, do I really want to pitch? Like, is this going to be the best connection for me, for my clients? Maybe not. And so I try and find writers or podcast hosts or whoever that I truly have a connection with, so that as I'm writing that email, it feels true. Like, it feels like I'm like, I really do love your writing. Like, I really do love blah, 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 XYZ. And so it feels so much more real than just saying like, hey, do you want to feature this in your next thing? And they're like, no. Writers get like 500 plus emails a day, and I'm supposed to stand out. Like, the only thing to me that makes the most sense is to then only pitch people that I truly connect with, so that as they're reading that email, they hopefully feel that too, and that it's way more genuine. And so I think that's just important. And to kind of go with everything we've been saying is that instead of trying to reach everyone and everything and be everywhere, it's way more meaningful to actually connect with the people who you're meant to connect with, who you want in your space. Like, think about it on those terms instead of just like, I'm trying to, reach everybody. Eventually, people that are meant to be in your space will come to you, and those not meant to be in your space will leave. And there's also a cool new feature where you can just remove people. You can remove followers, which is totally awesome. I did an audit like a few months ago and removed 500 people. 500. I didn't even fucking know who they were. Or I was like, no, you do not belong here. And so that's also something to remember as well. Like, think about the people with 2 million followers. Some of those could have been bought. Some of those people are probably bots. Some of them probably came 5 years ago and don't even see their content anyway. Like, numbers are nothing. I mean, in a sense. So it's like engagement and truly choosing what you're going to engage with on purpose that makes you feel good, and hopefully to make somebody else, feel good as well.
Yeah. That idea of, I always like to push it as, let's go deeper, not wider. When you try to just catch too many people, it's like, no, go deep, because the deeper you go, inherently it gets wider because more people start getting in the hole with you. So you
Right.
focus on those deep relationships, build those core values of like, no, this is who I am. Doesn't mean I ignore other people and I don't accept other information, but it's like, this is my audience. These are the people I'm trying to reach. Why am I trying to please everybody else? Like, especially
Yeah.
in our creative kind of sense, like I would never want to just do an episode because that's the new hot topic. Or here's the new cool thing to do. So hey, let's talk about it. And it's like
Right.
that, just doing it for that sake, to have the headline, to kind of get the uh just the bait, if you will, like a bait and switch with a thumbnail or something like that. Like, yes, there are some good ideas with that and you can kind of play around with it. But when that becomes your strategy of tricking people to get into your content, then you're like, wait a second, what's going on? You see it all over social media now, especially with like reels and stories and stuff like that, where mostly with the reels and like TikTok is it seems like it's one thing, and then you're like, wait a second, this is something completely different. Like the amount of times I have like now stumbled across like OnlyFans accounts, and I'm like, no, like I'm not liking any of this stuff. Like, why are you still feeding this into me? But it's because of the way the marketing and the way that they do it. You're like, wait a second, this is not my game. What's going on here? But
Right.
if we go into this idea of, again, like you said, being intentional, knowing who your audience is and really going to that audience, not trying to please everyone, because you're never going to please everyone. And I don't think you're meant to do that.
Oh, not at all. And it's kind of comical. I'm with one of my close girlfriends. I'm helping her with the brand partnerships. And one brand is paying like 7 times more than this brand. And this brand is like a shitstorm to work with. Like they're paying hardly any money and they are like bitching about everything. And so her and I were just having that conversation, is just like, see, like this is just proof that like, even though you're doing all the things the same as this way, this guy is just way more lenient and like loves everything that you do, super easygoing. And this brand is like not. And so it was just kind of a testament to be like, listen, you're not going to please everyone. Like we don't need to continue to try and like nurture that, because there's like no nurturing it, right? Like it's not, it doesn't even need to be nurtured. Like, let's think about other things, and just remember that no matter what, you can put your heart and soul into something and someone is still going to say something about it. I was on the podcast with Delaney. I was telling her this story that I made this reel one time, like my second reel ever. And it had like 12,000 views. It was just one of those ones that it was like everyone was doing it. And I was like, oh, this is fun. I'll just do it. I don't know what I'm doing. And this one guy, no idea who he is. Like he was just like a bot, but he commented, grow up. And so I was telling Delaney, I'm like, it like hurt my soul. And then I was like, wait, I don't fucking know this dude. Why is he, what? Like, why is this bothering me? But then at the same time, it did make me like question. Like I was like, oh God, I like hopped on the train and now someone's telling me to grow up. Maybe I do. I don't know. And then I was like, what is happening here? This is like ridiculous. This happened last fall. And ever since then, I'm just like, I don't know. I can't be invested in that. Like it has to be, have to put my energy and my time into like the people who are actually there to listen to my message or who want to reach out to me. But I'm like, I don't have time for this. Yeah. And then there's some people who do have like really big accounts who will, share sometimes in their stories, like people who reach out to them who are just like awful about things. And so I'm like, do I really want thousands of followers? I don't think so. Like my soul would be crushed if someone was like, I hate everything. I'd be like, oh my God, I can't even do it.
I'm going to delete my account now because this is, people are so like ruthless in comments. And your thing about someone commenting on it, there was a TikToker, I can't remember her username offhand, but she made a video that she was in scrubs, and it was I think it was like a Black Eyed Peas song or something like that. And she's like doing a little dance to it. It's like whatever a trend dance that she was doing.
Yeah.
Well, it literally, someone commented on that, seeing her in scrubs, like, hey, how about you get off TikTok and start helping people since you're a nurse or whatever, since she was wearing scrubs. So then she makes a video again in scrubs in like a room. and she's doing like the dance with a friend, and then all of a sudden has like a sign that says, "I'm not a nurse," and then like puts it down and still's like doing her dance. From then, people started commenting of course not. She's a policeman. No, she's a firefighter. No, she's a whatever. She now has, I don't know, a couple million followers. She has endorsements galore, and her entire shtick is guess my job. And she was at the Detroit Lions, invited her to the field. She was wearing a Detroit Lions uniform, and she's doing this little dance. She's been all over. She's getting all sorts of brand endorsements now, literally because someone made fun of her and said a comment. But to the same thing is, it takes a special kind of person, because if someone would attack me there, I'm not like, I'll fight back and then instantly be like, I shouldn't have done that. I'm like, now, crap. Oh gosh, now here we are. Now I'm in the deep end. But it's like, you find ways to kind of turn that. But yeah, the internet's it's a tough place. We made a video, a buddy of mine, God, this may have been 10 years now. Whenever the "What Does the Fox Say" was popular, whenever that was, he wrote a version of the song called "What Does the Walker Say" from The Walking Dead. I never watched The Walking Dead, but he wrote this song, and neither one, like at the time, I was kind of getting better with my vocals, and he can't sing at all. And we're like, hey, what if we make a music video for this? So like, I went all out. I'll have to send you the link. It's hilarious. But every comment, I think there's like one or two comments are like, I'd like to do that, guy. And every other one is, neither one of these guys can sing. This is the worst thing I've ever seen. And our video has like, I think it probably has like 30,000 views or something like that, which is just like, we never promoted anything to it, but it's one of those where like initially they like hurt. I'm like, you know how much time I spent? Like, he wrote the song, I produced it, I filmed and edited the video, like spent hours upon hours upon hours, and then literally people are just like, this sucks. I'm just like any more constructive feedback? Like, what would you have done differently?
What do you hate about it? Yeah.
So I remember responding back to a few of the comments, like to exact that question. I'm like, well, what do you think about this? Or show me your videos, Mr. Username 5678. And it's just like, people hide behind usernames and behind the screen because it's a safe place for them. And they feel like they can kind of have this like, I wouldn't say bully mentality, but it makes them, more often than not, probably just makes them feel better that they're able to kind of like down somebody else. Like, hey, I'm on top of this person because I told them. And it's like, well, you look at them and they have like 3 followers and they've made 1 video, and you're like, who are you to kind of be that judge? But it turns back into the, why are you doing it? What is knowing your own self-worth? Because you have to have a good bit of confidence and self-worth, understanding of your self-worth, to put yourself out there like that.
Right. Totally. That your whole like iteration. Do you watch The Office?
100%.
Do you remember when Andy like put up his like ukulele video and there was like all these comments and he's sitting there like getting even more pissed off, like having this conversation with someone? Oh my God. But yes, it's totally true that like, I actually just bought a sweater the other day that said, I'm like, I wear it all the time. I have no idea what it says, I guess, but something about your productivity does not equal your worth or something like that. And I feel like that, if anything, has been like the biggest lesson learned over like COVID and becoming like an online business owner, is because for so long, especially during COVID, I could not get out of the mentality that if I am not at my computer working or creating or posting or recording an episode or doing something like that, that I am somehow not being productive and that I'm somehow not being useful. And so it's been like a learning curve. And that kind of ties into social media, is that I truly was for a while. I mean, you saw it. I had like a business page and I had a VA who was like helping me with all of the content. And I'm like, I am tired. I'm tired of having to feeling like I have to show up, that I have to say something, or that I have to, should, all these things. And when I stopped doing all of that, it felt so much happier. And I actually was attracting more people because I wasn't going against that grain. And we are all different, right? We all have different energies. Some people truly like they thrive off of that. They want to make a YouTube video. They want to create a blog post out of that and then record an episode. And then like it gives them energy. To me, I literally have to be like, how do I feel today? Like, where does my energy need to go today? Or else I will literally be like I will be crazy. Like my brain will be a tornado. I will not be thinking very productively. I won't get anything useful done or accomplished because I'm just trying to do the shoulds instead of actually doing like what feels best. And so once I adopted that strategy, at least for me personally and in business, it's just way more peaceful.
Yeah. You realize, again, it goes back to the why. You realize, why are you doing this? And the whole idea is building connections and doing this stuff. And in some cases, turning the wheel, beating yourself up that you're not getting things out or you're not doing things, you're not being productive. I totally get that. And I like our new place, like my office is in a corner away from everything. So it's like when I'm here, it's work time. Like I'm getting things done, but I can separate from it. Where it's like, hey, this is this work area. I can sit over somewhere else and I don't even have to worry about it. My computer stays right here. And I think having that mentality kind of just helps us full circle. Again, talking about the idea of engagement and connection and why all of this stuff kind of just goes to purpose alignment. Understanding why you're doing what you're doing and using the tools that you have to keep pushing you forward.
Exactly. Yeah. Everything with an intention will totally transform like how you're spending your time. And more than that, like it will give you the feeling of feeling actually fulfilled instead of that empty feeling, which we've all felt after we've been scrolling for an hour and a half. And we're like, okay, we just did nothing. And now we actually feel sad because we saw our neighbor who's like on a vacation, like it doesn't make you feel good. So it's like, okay, what actually makes me feel good? Why am I on here? Okay. And then do it with intention.
Exactly. Perfect. Yeah. Chris, thanks for being on the show today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
I will have you anytime about any topic because they're always great conversations. We're going to have all of Chris's information in the show notes. So make sure you follow her, check out the podcast. I'm telling you guys, it's going to be, it's good stuff. So you definitely want to check out and listen. But to everyone else, reach out to me on social media everywhere at flores.run. Subscribe, leave a review for the podcast. As I'm telling people, like, please share it. Please, it's going to make me feel better. Please, please like it. Visit my website, please. www.flores.run. We are hangry.com. You guys know the deal. Thank you so much for listening today. Remember to keep running with purpose, one step at a time. See you guys next week.